Amazing rare photos you won't believe existed. This image shows the assembly line of the Canon P rangefinder camera, also known as the Populaire. It was produced at Canon's factory in Tokyo in the early 1950s, during the post-World War II recovery. The Canon P quickly became a favorite among both professional and hobbyist photographers. Around 100,000 units were sold, making it one of Canon's most successful models at the time. Its simple and effective design made it easy to use, while the assembly process reflected the skill and discipline of the workers. This model helped Canon establish a global reputation and laid the foundation for future SLR camera innovations. This photo shows rows of children being treated inside iron lungs in the early 1950s. The iron lung was a large respirator machine created to help patients breathe when their respiratory muscles became paralyzed. It was widely used during the polio outbreaks, a disease that caused paralysis and respiratory failure in thousands of children every year. At that time, hospitals across the United States and Europe were filled with rooms containing these massive machines. Each child had to lie inside the metal chamber for days or even weeks, with only their head positioned outside the device. The iron lung worked by creating negative pressure, forcing the chest to expand and helping the body draw in air. For many patients, this machine was the only way to survive before the polio vaccine existed. The polio vaccine, developed by Jonas Salk in 1955, finally ended this difficult era. Within just a few years, polio cases dropped dramatically, and the use of iron lungs nearly disappeared. This photo reminds us of a time when medical technology and human resilience were the main hope for children fighting polio. This photo shows a baby stroller tied to the front of a bus in Papua, New Zealand, during the 1950s. Scenes like this may look unusual today, but at that time the practice wasn't considered strange by many people. Small buses in suburban areas often had hooks or small compartments at the front to carry passengers' belongings. Some parents chose to place their baby strollers outside the vehicle because the space inside the cabin was quite limited. In addition, transportation safety regulations during that era were not as strict as they are today, so practices like this were not prohibited. Even so, the photo raises many questions about safety and the way people lived during that period. This scene also shows how safety standards, public transportation systems, and people's mindset have changed drastically over the decades. Today, this image is viewed as a strange yet fascinating example of daily life in the past, something that would be hard to imagine for modern generations. This photo depicts one phase of the famous social experiment known as Universe 25, conducted by American scientist John B. Calhoun. This experiment began in 1958 and aimed to understand how populations develop when all basic needs are fully provided. Calhoun created a utopia for mice, with abundant food, clean water, stable temperature, and no predators. At first, the population increased rapidly because the environment was safe and comfortable. However, after reaching a certain number, the behavior of the mice began to change drastically. Aggressive behavior, social isolation, mothers abandoning their young, and groups of passive mice that did nothing except eat and sleep started to appear. This phenomenon was later called the behavioral sink, which refers to the collapse of behavior caused by extreme population density. Calhoun concluded that without social balance and personal space, even a population living in an ideal environment would experience destruction. This experiment remains controversial today, as it is often used as a reference for understanding modern urban life and the social pressures on humans. This photo serves as a reminder that a society requires not only resources, but also structure, healthy interaction, and room to grow. This photo shows the KM Ekranoplan, better known as the Caspian Sea Monster. It was a massive Soviet experimental vehicle built during the Cold War. Designed by Rostislav Alexiev, it combined the features of a plane, a ship, and a hovercraft. It flew just a few meters above the water using the ground effect to reduce drag and increase lift. At over 90 meters long and weighing more than 500 tons, it was larger than a Boeing 747. The Caspian Sea Monster could reach speeds of up to 500 kilometers per hour while staying low enough to avoid radar detection. Because of its unusual shape, CIA analysts who first saw it in satellite photos in 1967 were confused and alarmed. They had never seen a machine like this and believed it might be a new type of secret bomber. The project remained highly classified in the Soviet Union for decades. In 1980, the KM crashed during a test flight and was abandoned on the shoreline of the Caspian Sea. Only years later did the world finally learn the true story behind one of the strangest military machines ever built. Today, the Caspian Sea Monster is remembered as a bold but ultimately unrealized vision of futuristic transportation. This photo documents the aftermath of the Great Molasses Flood that struck Boston in January 1919. The disaster occurred when a massive storage tank holding over 2 million gallons of molasses suddenly burst. A wave of thick, sticky molasses rushed through the North End neighborhood at nearly 35 miles per hour. The wave was estimated to be more than 6 meters high, strong enough to destroy buildings and overturn vehicles. 21 people were killed and more than 150 were injured in the chaos. Because the molasses quickly solidified in the cold winter air, rescue efforts became extremely difficult. Cleanup crews spent weeks removing the hardened syrup from streets, homes, and the nearby harbor. Investigations later revealed that the tank was poorly constructed and never properly tested for safety. The tragedy led to new regulations requiring stricter inspection and accountability for industrial structures. Today, the Great Molasses Flood remains one of the strangest and most unexpected industrial disasters in American history. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to support this channel. See you in the next video.